And welcome to another episode of Witch Hat Chats. And come on in and sit for a spell. We are sponsored by Evermoving We Rise and Moonlight Potions and Charms. And we have our amazing, our wonderful chaos magician who has just arrived. He is stopping by as he spins his stories about all the chaos that he has caused in the world. His name is Saul Ravencraft. How are you doing, Saul?
I'm doing fantastic, Nikki. How are you today?
I am amazing, as I always am.
Well, it's becoming that time of year, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, where temperature is getting just right. You know,
Yep.
it's not too hot. It's not too cold, but we're going back into a hot spell supposedly this week. And I'm like, oh, it was just getting to the perfect temperature. And now we're going back into the hot spell. Like, no. We can't go back into that hot spell again, right?
Yeah, well, it's only going to be about 98 degrees here today, so that's not so bad.
Well, that's the reason why I don't live in Texas.
Indeed.
It's getting into that frightful season too. You
Well,
know,
and it's the point where everybody else catches up with us. It's funny to watch the streaming channels suddenly get their big dose of horror, so that people can cram horror into the month of October. And some of us just watch it all the time. We don't need October for that. October is just when it's easier to blend with the crowd.
Yeah, it is. You know, I'm just one of those type of people that I watch it all year long. It's just easier for me. You know, it's just, the thing about it is when you grow up with two brothers, you always have it so much easier to be able to not to be scared when
Sure.
it comes to that kind of stuff. You know, that's the reason why I was always able to work with mentally ill people. And people say, don't that scare you? And I'm like, no, I grew up with two brothers. They were older than me. They always, try to scare me when I was a kid,
Sure. Sure. Well, and another thing, for me, horror and fantasy are all very, very important to keeping my brain in an active mode. I think it's very important to keep your brain in a point where you're not conforming to what's going on around you, that you are still able to see other possibilities and other modes of things. And it's funny, people who don't watch a lot of horror movies have this idea that horror movies leave you with this sense of dread and fear and all of that. And the truth is that in many cases, horror movies have a sort of a happy ending. You know, someone survives. The monster
Sometimes.
is revealed and understood. And we, it's very rarely a total doomsday scenario. Yeah, they usually leave it open-ended so they can have those sequels, and because leaving it open-ended does, you know, it's that little cliffhanger going on there, but they very rarely leave you without hope. And I think that's something that's not fully appreciated about the horror genre. A lot of people involved in the horror genre are very much about the idea of hope, that the monsters are metaphors and that we can win. We can defeat them. We can survive. That's the whole point of most of these movies. And I think that keeping a regular idea on that, keeping a regular hand on that, rather, just helps you look at some of the real shit that's going on and recognize that with the right resource, with the right mindset, with the right attitude, you can survive. And I think we need that right now, quite honestly.
Well, the ones that I really like are the ones that have more than one twist to them. You know, the twists that you're not expecting are the ones that I really, really like. You know, especially the ones that have like 2 or 3 twists to them. And those are the ones that I really get into. You know, but enough about those. So what are you up to, Saul, for this month?
Well, a lot of the things that I do lately have been media work. I spend between the recording and the editing and the publishing and setting up of the podcast. I start tracking my time. I spend about 10 hours a week to do everything involved to make the episodes go. And there's another podcast that I help edit, so I've got a few obligations during the week that keep me occupied with some of that. I'm still working on getting out of the COVID vibe. And getting what I do out in front of people. There's a lot involved with that, and it's not something that just happens with a single Facebook post. There's a lot involved there, and there's a lot to figure out, and so that's where I am. That said, there is some stuff coming up in October. I've got the spirit sessions I'll be doing at Mama Merlot's at Doc's Drive-In. On the last weekend of October, I'll be involved with another festival the weekend beforehand. And there's some house parties and things like that coming in, but people are very optimistic about when they'll be able to book that stuff. And what I'm afraid of is that when they finally go, okay, let's make this happen, they'll have to go, well, sorry, I'm already booked for that stuff. So it's watching this stuff trickle in while I continue to try and push the drumbeat out. Obviously, the best way to keep track of me is on Facebook. Yes, I have an Instagram account. Yes, I have a Twitter account, but Instagram kind of wants you to just take pictures of everything, and that's not necessarily how I do things. Twitter wants you to basically write haikus, and that's not really what I do either. I'm a prose person, and so I like to use my words. And so Facebook is the most comfortable place for me to communicate. And the one that's kind of at the ready for me. So if you're not following Saul Ravencraft, Executive Occultist on Facebook, you are missing it. And I don't want you to miss it. I don't.
Well, there's always TikTok. TikTok always does videos.
Yeah, I tinkered with TikTok for a little while, but I don't know. It just doesn't connect with me. I don't have enough glitter for TikTok.
Oh, come on, Saul. You're the video guy.
Yeah, but the TikTok world again, it's trying to do these little snapshot kinds of things, and that's just not the way that I communicate.
All right, Saul.
And that may mean that I miss out, and that I'm just the old guy and I have to go lay in the box. But I think that people interested in what I do are also going to be a little bit like me. So I'll let someone else lead the extreme youth right now.
Okay. All right. Well, with Evermoving We Rise, we have our Samhain and New Moon ritual that's coming up on the 24th. And we're really looking forward to that because that's always our big ritual that we have every single year. And then on the 1st of November is our ancestor blessing ritual, which we always have every single year. And that's the one that we usually have Byron to come. So I'm going to ask Byron again to see if she would have her, present herself to there. And so that is going to be Evermoving We Rise. And then we've got Moonlight Potions and Charms. And of course, we have our wonderful new products. Our wonderful new products. We have our signs. We have our skeletons. We have our Hamson hand statues. We have our wonderful candles, our baths, and our readings. If you know anything, you need to get one of our readings. Our readings are so insightful and they're amazing to be able to do. Oh, they're so wonderful. I love doing the readings and just being able to communicate and talk to people. And it's just wonderful to be able to do those. And then on October the 22nd, at the Morse Park in Lake Lure, North Carolina, from 10 to 2 p.m., we're going to be at the Paws 4th Annual PetFest. This is a chance to come with your family and pets to have fun, eat food, and dance to the music. There's going to be vendors from the Western North Carolina tailored to your pets and local animal rescues that will bring animals out to be adopted, and it's going to happen rain or shine. So Moonlight Potions and Charms, we're going to be vending there, and we're going to have so much fun. So come on down and have some fun with us. It's for a good cause. And if you want to, or, just come on down and even adopt a new pet.
No,
they fun. Are such wonderful little creatures. Oh, that is such a good thing to do. is to have a little baby. Yeah, a little fuzzy baby. Take care of one of those little fuzzy babies.
Right? Or, sometimes there are some fantastic, more mature pets that are available. That are just as loving and just as friendly. I mean, it's cute to have a little baby, right? But sometimes it's nice to not have to deal with all that
Get a senior baby.
Care.
Yeah.
You
Get a senior baby. Yeah.
Get someone that can just immediately appreciate you.
Because I have three
stuff.
senior babies. Yes, I do. I got 3 senior babies. Yes, I do. And they're fun. Yes, they are. And we are on Spotify. Yes, we are. And tell them where else that they can reach us, Saul.
Well, we're on a number of different platforms like Stitcher, and there's a few others. I'm getting more and more going every day. Too many to list here. But if you go to our page where all the links are, you will start to see the listen links up above, where you can find your favorite icon for where you like to get your podcasts, and you'll be able to just incorporate those into your listening, and however you collect it, you can just subscribe through there, and there will always be Witch Hat Chats there for you.
Awesome. And so, do you want to know what our divination reading is for today?
Of course.
Awesome. So for those of you who don't know by now what I drink a tea by Yogi called Positive Energy Tea. And it has a little divination on the tea, what do they call it? The little tea thingy? Tea thingy. There we go. There's the official term. Tea thingy. Okay.
Whatchamacallit.
Yeah. The tea. Now, whatchamacallit is actually a candy bar, so we can't call it a whatchamacallit. We call it the tea thingy. There we go. So that is the official term, the tea thingy. So our divination reading for today is talking to plants is one way of talking directly to spirit. Oh. So for our kamikaze here, what does that mean?
Well, that's one of the basic ideas of animism, the idea that everything has a connection to spirit and everything has its own spirit. Native American cultures, some of them subscribe very much to this. There are many cultures that do that. There are practices that recognize spirit in everything. Recognizing that plants are connected with spirit as well as all of nature and the universe, that's all accessible. I think that's a great thing to think about. And we should be treating these creations as fellow spirits instead of things to have our way with. Respect.
Well, I talk to my plants all the time, and every time I plant a plant, I dedicate it to a deity each and every time, which doesn't mean that they're going to always prosper either. But it does help.
Right.
But yeah, every plant has a spirit, has its own spirit. So I do talk to them. I mean, they said a long time ago, even when I was a kid, that plants do like to be talked to, and they do thrive more when you talk to them versus when you don't. So
sure.
I've always done that. Yep. I've always done that. All
But I
righty.
think that that's a good thing in general when you're on the sorts of paths that we explore on this show is to recognize the greater vibrations outside yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not here to manipulate things so much as we are to place ourselves in harmony with them, and that simple acknowledgement that a plant is a fellow life and a fellow spirit puts you on the right road.
Right. Right. I mean, I talk to my animals. I might as well go ahead and talk to the plants.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm always talking to my animals all the time. All the time. All right. So we're going to take a short break and listen to our marvelous sponsors, and we'll be right back with our topic. We are all magical beings. As a solitary magical practitioner, you can grow and develop yourself independently. Yet, the solitary path can be difficult and lonely with setbacks and self-doubts, and as you find your way without affirmations, reinforcements, or a safe space to practice, what do you do when things bump back? At Evermoving We Rise, our name is our lifestyle. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We teach you to understand and use the magical tools at your fingertips, while being upheld and developing personal responsibility for your own spirituality. We have a safe space to practice and learn as you master your craft. When situations bump back, you will have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Start today. Visit us at our website, Linktree, or Facebook page, and discover why we don't fit in the box.
At Witch Hat Chats, we promote magical knowledge, arts, and music from all cultures. We invite you to join us as our guest to share your practice, especially if your traditions are lesser known. Email us at witchhatchats@gmail.com. Tune in every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page.
Hi, it's Saul Ravencraft welcoming you back to Witch Hat Chats. I am here with Miss Nikki Kirby, and we were talking earlier about it coming back into spooky season and all the horror movies and all that coming up. But there's other things that people take a sudden interest in at this time of year. It's a point where people get curious about witchcraft and the unseen world. It's a point where people get interested in ghosts and spirits and all of that sort of thing. And they don't necessarily know what they're getting into. It's kind of a well, it's a careful what you wish for kind of a thing. And I've dealt with people. I mean, there is an aspect to this season that is kind of Disney's Haunted Mansion, where it's all spookiosity and spook houses and that kind of thing, and that's great. But there are people that want to take that up a notch and go and visit haunted locations and use techniques to make contact and that sort of thing. And I mean, you know me, my opinion is that you don't need someone special to help you do this stuff. Right. That as humans, we are all given the resources to make these kinds of connections. We got to learn technique. We have to develop some skill and some practical knowledge there. But you don't need someone to come find you and go, you're a wizard, in order to be allowed to do these things. You don't have to be someone who has seen invisible people since you were a child in order to do these things. The people that do have that experience, bless their hearts. But, right, for the rest of us, it's not a gateway. Now, having said that, it's not necessarily something to be entered into lightly. Just like I would not recommend that someone get the idea that they'd like to go hunting and drop by the sports shop on their way to the woods for their first hunting trip all by themselves. Okay? Bad things. Right? And I think it's the same when you talk about entering into some of these things. I don't think it's something to be feared, right? I don't think that we need to get the horror movies all in our head, because quite honestly, most of what you see in the horror movies is bullshit. Right? They're movies, they're stories, they're intended to be fun. But some of them do draw upon some lore. And they do draw upon some things that are practical, but they don't always do it in a very educational way. And people think they know things, but they don't.
Well, that's the same way in some of these reality shows, like the paranormal shows. A lot of it's bullshit. Same thing,
So I had the opportunity to have a fantastic conversation with Brian Harnois. He was one of the guys on the, I believe it was the Ghost Hunters show. And he was the one that eventually they got rid of. And they played up this idea that he was inept. And in talking to him, he explained that when you're doing a show like that, what goes out is the vision of the producers. That's it. They decide what it is they want to be. And that's not to say that everything is faked, but things are definitely influenced. And the producers have the ability to play with circumstances, to create complication and conflict that gets people on edge and gets people not at their most effective and efficient. And then they have all this material that they can edit any way that they want. They can show this thing and show a reaction to another thing. And they could really play with what happens there. And the people on those programs signed these non-disclosure agreements that say anything that happens, even if they try to defame you, you can't talk about it, you can't sue, you can't do anything about that. Mm-hmm. I talked to someone who was on, I think it was America's Got Talent, and he said that the agreement he signed in order to do that show had something like that. And then he explained the ramifications of it. He said, if after I didn't do well on an episode, the producers asked me to go and trash the green room, and I said, no, that's stupid. I mean, I lost, but it's not that big a deal. They could then hire a double to impersonate him and go in and trash the green room and show it as though it was him, and he couldn't say anything about it. That's what reality shows are.
Mm-hmm. And they're scripted too. And people don't think
some events are. Yeah, some of the events are. Yeah. Now some of that is just storytelling. Right? They talk about reshooting. And in some cases, those are what we call in media a pickup shot. Okay? So if we've gotten used to a certain language in storytelling, on television and movies, right? And if I see you, if I just had a static camera and it showed you going around doing your stuff, it would be so boring because we're used to having these cuts.
Right.
But if I'm following you around, capturing reality, that's kind of what I got. I mean, I maybe got a couple of views to work with. Well, we're used to if you on a television show write a note to someone, we see you walk over to the desk, and then we get a close-up of you opening the drawer and taking out the Post-it note, and then we get a mid-shot of you writing, and then we get a close-up of what you're writing, and then we get the big shot again as you take the Post-it note and you stick it on the door. And then maybe another close-up of the Post-it on the door to show that it's really stuck there, right? Well, when you're shooting live, you can't necessarily get all that stuff. So what they will do, and this I think is legitimate because you couldn't really comprehend the show otherwise, is someone will do something and go, wow, that was incredible. Let's get a few more shots. I need you to take your knife out of the sheath, right? I need you to do this and that so we can get this angle on it. Now, you're recreating what you just did, and you really did that. But we have to have a certain language in the storytelling for the audience to stay with it. And so that's an area where I think the redoing and the scripting is reasonable because you're reshaping what happened in a way that the audience can consume it. But yeah, there are situations where they create circumstances. And yeah, there's your reality.
Well, you know, there's also situations in which, like, for example, I think it was let's see, what was it? It was the Black Brothers, the Black Ghost Brothers, I think is what it was called. And they went into the Winchester house. Now, I've been in the Winchester house multiple times during the day, and I've talked to Mrs. Winchester. So I know this ghost. Okay, I know this ghost. And they did this at night. And the things that they did would have pissed her off. I mean, royally pissed her off. And they did this stuff on purpose. And number one, I'm sitting there thinking, this is disrespectful, first of all. And I mean, they didn't do any history on this ghost. They claim they did, but they didn't do any history on this ghost, first of all. And if they did any history, it was lousy history. Secondly, the thing about it is when you start pissing off this ghost, she ain't going to do shit. I'll go ahead and tell you that now. She won't do shit because she knows that you're doing it to piss her off.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, this is an intelligent entity.
Right.
And there's very few of those. So she ain't going to do anything. And she didn't. She didn't do a damn thing. I know she didn't. Because they had these lights that kept flashing and everything. And I'm like, I know she didn't make those lights flash. That is faked. That is absolutely faked. And it was just so unreal to me. I ended up turning it off. I mean, the only reason why I watched was because it was, you know, at the Winchester Mystery House, which is one of my favorite houses. Because like I said, I used to go there all the time when I lived in San Jose. And it's a house I do truly recommend that you do go and that you do research the home and research Sarah Winchester, because she is a very, very interesting woman to begin with, and I could talk all day about this lady. But it's like they didn't know what they were doing. The producers only wanted to go in, and they just wanted somebody to. They just wanted ratings. You know, it really, really ticked me off about that. You know, it's just it enraged me, because to me, when you go into a house, a haunted house, or into a graveyard, you are going into another country. Okay, you're going into a foreign country. This is no longer your country. This is no longer the United States. This is a foreign country with rules that are different than yours. And they need to be respected. Because if they really want to fuck you up, they will fuck you up. Period.
Sure. Well, and as David Shee and others on our program point out, there's never a point where you're not in some realm connected with some spirit.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a spiritual sovereignty, no matter where you are, whether you're in a graveyard or the Walmart. There's a genius loci connected with that. There are other entities connected with those spaces. And one of the things, well, I mean, you basically described it very well. It's exploitation versus respect. Mm-hmm. And you know what you were talking about with talking to the plants and our discussion about spirit and everything. That's really the way you have to approach these kinds of things, is to know that you are always a visitor in a larger realm. And even though there are layers on top of that, and those are legitimate layers, that one of the things that we get by going down these paths is a recognition of the deeper realms and the older powers, and the need to be respectful. The knowledge these things are bigger than us and more powerful than us. And I think if you wanna have some spooky adventures, and by the way, you don't have to just do it during October. Ghosts are here all the time. You talked, in fact, that was one thing that I loved that you said, was that you had visited the Winchester house many times during the day and had talked to her ghost, right? Mm-hmm. There's not something magic about midnight that makes all the ghosts come out. They are there all the time. And the picking those dark hours, those quiet hours, is not for their benefit. That's for our benefit. That's getting us into the right mode. But with practice and with respectfully continuing to do these things, you'll find that it doesn't have to be 2 o'clock in the morning by a full moon or anything like that. That you can open yourself to that pretty much any time.
Well, the thing about it is that during the nighttime, it's mostly a Hollywood thing. It's what it is. Because they're activated the entire time. Ghosts don't sleep. What makes you think that a ghost has to sleep? They're dead. They don't need to sleep.
Right.
I mean, really.
So, Nikki, you've decided to go explore a location. You said that the first thing that you would do is research and try to better understand the history and what it is you're walking into. What other preparations, if any, do you make before connecting with a haunted location to legitimately explore it?
Well, number one, I'm going to tell somebody where I'm at. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Because if I get hurt, I'm going to tell them where I'm at. I'm going to tell them about how long I'm going to be. And I'm probably going to take somebody with me, because you never know if you're going to get hurt. That's the first thing.
Right.
Because a lot of times these properties are, they're not stable. And it's a house, because people are not going to keep up these houses, especially if they're run down or something like that. Unlike like the Winchester Mystery House, they do tours through this place. So of course they're going to keep it up and so forth. But most of these houses, that especially if they're local, and most people ain't going to keep them up. So, and a lot of times, especially if you're trespassing, they're not going to keep that stuff up. So you want to make sure that somebody knows where you're at. You want to take some type of pack with you, like you want to keep a first aid kit with you as well. Make sure you have certain items with you. Like I always make sure I carry a flashlight with me, a couple flashlights with me, as well as my phone. I always have my phone with me. And then I always have salt as well. And there's different types of salt that we can go into later in the show. And I also make sure I have Florida water with me. And before I go, I always take a shower. I take a ritual bath, make sure that I'm cleansed inside and that I'm cleansed outside as well. I don't want to go in there angry or that my aura is just absolutely dirty. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I'm physically, mentally, and emotionally ready, because you never know what you're going to see inside. Even if you do all the research in the world, you truly never know what you're going to step into. At least that's what I've always tend to find out. What about you, Saul? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I did want to make a quick point about trespassing. Is that you should always try to seek permission when you are looking at a property. Trespassing is illegal, and you can go to jail for that. Witch Hat Chats, its hosts and its sponsors do not condone breaking the law in order to have your ghost investigations. So just wanted to say that. And in many cases, it's not necessary. Getting permission to go and do something, provided they understand that you're being respectful and that you can be very clear on what it is that you're doing, is really what's necessary. Now, they may ask you to pay a little money to go and do that, and I don't think that's unreasonable.
Right.
They may ask you to show some kind of proof of personal insurance for this kind of stuff. That's not unreasonable either. And these are things that you should consider if you are doing this kind of stuff, is to have some kind of insurance for yourself, or to have a strategy for how you deal with things as they go wrong. I agree with the things that you said. I probably have a piece of chalk in my kit with the salt and the Florida water and that sort of thing.
Also, you need to have something over your head as well, like a hat.
Okay.
Or even what I've got on there, a scarf.
Okay, that's not something that, I mean, I'm a hat guy anyway, but that's not something that I'd specifically heard. Tell us more about that.
Well, the reason why is an African American belief that your soul is in your head, and that spirits can actually possess you through your head. So that's the reason why they actually have a covering a lot of times through here. So that's the reason why
Sure.
a lot of times, especially if you're in a cemetery, they have some type of covering over their head. They prefer the color of white, but if you don't have white, something, some type of covering over it.
Sure. And, that tradition plays into our culture in lots of different ways. It's why you say bless you when someone sneezes, to make sure they don't accidentally propel their soul out of their head when they sneeze. And while we think of that kind of thing as a little silly, there are traditions involved with this. And even if you can't logically, scientifically decide, okay, well, that's a good reason for that. When you enter into these spaces, you try to enter into the right vibration. And by honoring these traditions and doing these kinds of preparations, you are putting yourself in the right space to do this. One big thing for me is doing some level of grounding and shielding before you go in. Yeah. And you gotta, it's kind of a fine line, because you are choosing to open yourself to what it is that you can encounter here. But at the same time, you are trying to shield yourself. So you can't make it a solid golden ball around you. You gotta have some, windows there that you can work through. But having awareness of your shield, and by doing specifically a shielding exercise up front, you remind yourself of that little dimmer switch that you have. And if you got to crank that shield up, you remember that it's there. You remember that you put it in place, and you're better able to access that. And of course, grounding can be a part of that ritual bath that you talked about. But not everybody who's participating with you may be working with things at the same level. So I like to go through with anyone I'm with, even if it's that one buddy that's looking out for you. We just do a grounding and a clearing together, a grounding and a shielding rather together, so that we're both on the same page. And that I've reinforced to them how seriously I'm taking this and where I'm coming from on this. I think it's also important to set some ground rules as to what it is you're trying to accomplish. Set those intentions right up front, right? We're not just going to creep through like Scooby-Doo and wait for something to jump out of us, right? We are declaring our intention to make connection, to get feedback, to look for something specific or someone specific, and make that a clear intention. And you don't do it like they do on some of those. Oh gosh, these shows really upset me when they do this. They'll just kind of blunder in and swagger around, yelling at the spirits, daring the spirits to show themselves. Right? Give me a sign if you're real. Huh? And gosh, that's messed up. Can you imagine if someone came to visit you and your grandmother, and they just started bullying her?
Oh my God. I always said that if I was ever a spirit and I was stuck on this world, God, I would screw with so many people. I would do that on purpose. I would just screw with so many people.
And there is,
show me that you're
that's another aspect of all of this is just because you're dead doesn't mean you're not an asshole. And
tell them you're an asshole.
and it also doesn't mean that they suddenly have infinite wisdom. The spirits have limitations as well as people do, and some of those limitations follow them. I believe that what happens when we pass through the veil into Summerland is that we get a lot of clarity. The questions, the information that was shielded from us becomes clear at that point. And a lot of things are understood, but you still have to use the information correctly. And yes. I think that some spirits cling to their, I mean, they're still doing their work. But that's all the time we have in this segment. We're going to take a break to hear stuff you got to know from our wonderful sponsors. And when we come back, Nikki and I are going to continue this conversation about entering into spirit connection during spooky season the right way.
I'm Saul Ravencraft, co-host of Witch Hat Chats. I understand just how confusing and chaotic it can be to open to a path of magic and manifestation. Everything seems to turn on its head. I want to be an ally as you find the way upon your path. My studio setup will let us do readings, coaching, and exploration virtually, just as though you were sitting across the table from me. One size does not fit all, and we will work together to craft the right approaches to build your practice, your confidence, and your power using the tools of divination, magical works, and spirit connections. It's never too late to embrace a new path and emerge empowered. Go to TexasMojoMan.com and select Contact to begin. There's a message now. Let's get started working on your very good fortune.
We are all magical beings. As a solitary magical practitioner, you can grow and develop yourself independently. Yet, the solitary path can be difficult and lonely with setbacks and self-doubts, and as you find your way without affirmations, reinforcements, or a safe space to practice, what do you do when things bump back? At Evermoving We Rise, our name is our lifestyle. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We teach you to understand and use the magical tools at your fingertips, while being upheld and developing personal responsibility for your own spirituality. We have a safe space to practice and learn as you master your craft. When situations bump back, you will have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Start today. Visit us at our website, Linktree, or Facebook page and discover why we don't fit in the box. Have you heard? People are raving about Moonlight Potions and Charms with 5-star reviews. 5 stars for excellent products, amazing services, and fast shipping. We are an Etsy star seller. Listen to some of our reviews. Author and owner of Wicked Witch Studios, Dorothy Morrison said, "I'm in love. The Marie Laveau Altar on the Go is absolutely amazing and jam-packed with everything one could possibly need, no matter what sort of magic they're planning. Kudos on a great product." Jess said, "Absolutely love the Papa Legba prayer candle. I've been hunting for a good Papa Legba candle forever with zero success, and I adore this one." High Priestess said, "Adorable wooden coffins. Can't wait to use them." And Angelica said about our ancestor oil, "Exceeding my expectations. packaged with love and smells amazing. Definitely recommending and buying again. Make sure to check out our Bubbling Cauldron Bath Bombs, available in Luck of the Irish, Lavender, and Dragon's Blood. Our magical milk baths are also available in Papa Legba Purification, White Flowers, Lucky Love, and Bam Bam. All are homemade and spelled with love, care, and intention. Our Happily Ever After candle line is designed with you in mind. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. And welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. And Saul and I are talking about walking into haunted places. So Saul, when you're going, let's say you book a place to go into like a haunting trail or something like that with somebody, how do you know that person is legit or not?
Well, I don't think there is any way that you can tell for sure unless you're able to get certain kinds of evidential statements back from them. And there's very few situations where there's something that you know that no one else could know that they can give to you that is absolute proof. That said, I don't worry so much about. So let me describe my mindset in going into these kinds of things. When I go into a haunted location, when I am working on some level of spirit connection, I am not looking for proof. I'm not looking to write a scientific paper that is going to be peer reviewed by the community to demonstrate the nature of spirits. It's not why I'm there. And so any audio that I collect, any video, photos, information, data that I collect is not so much about finding evidence, finding proof, but it is about my own experience and my own encounter with these things. I think there's a lot of people that enter into this acting like they are scientists, and they are not scientists, right? And the problem with that is it's like your friend who wants to talk to you about medical things or law things, and they're not a doctor, they're not a lawyer. There's so much that they do not know and so much that they do not understand, and it's not a useful conversation, right? And I think the same thing happens here. So I know when I'm going into this, and I'm purely going as a seeker. I am looking to have my own experiences with these things and form my own interpretations. Are my interpretations the truth? I don't know. But they are my own experience, and so that I think is one of the first things to go in. If you are not a quantum physicist or something like that going in to collect evidence, then get over yourself a little bit. And the same of everybody involved. Now, you do need to make sure that everybody is on the same page as to what you're trying to accomplish and what the protocols are for safety, both physical safety and emotional safety. And everybody's got to be agreeable. I don't want anybody involved with me in doing something like this that is just there to poke the bear. That's just there to debunk everything. Now, Skepticism, you got to have skepticism.
Right.
And having someone who's observant, has knowledge of things, can do things. Because, okay, so I have a few gadgets. I got a few flashing lights, right? One of the ones that I will use is a electromagnetic field detector. And it's a little box, and it's basically got a dial or lights on it that will show you the strength of an electromagnetic field. It is not a ghost detector, right? It detects electromagnetic fields, which are given off by all kinds of things, by wiring. Going through the walls and electricity flowing through that. It generates a little bit of a field. Your phone generates a little bit of a field. All kinds of devices will generate a field, which why it's interesting when someone sets their EMF detector down next to their phone, which has some kind of communication thing going on so you can talk to the spirits, and the EMF meter goes off. Well, sure it does. Because your phone is radiating that stuff in pulses. And that's why it comes and goes. But at the same time, that doesn't bother me when stuff like that is going on. I don't consider that fraud exactly. Maybe some misunderstanding about the information. But I think sometimes we need a little bit of activity. We need something going on to help us get into the mode where we can accept that something can go on. So I'm kind of neutral on that, depending on the situation. I do think that you need to understand what your equipment does, right? I love to use pendulums in situations like that. Very low tech. But if you use a pendulum, I think it's really important for you to acknowledge that it is possible for you to subconsciously make the pendulum move. And you can make it move any way you choose without any perceptible movement. It's one of the amazing things our brains can do. All right. Now, does that mean that the pendulum can't give you accurate communication? No, but it does mean that you got to be conscious of how you're using it, and be aware of the ways that you could trick yourself out. It's the same with any kind of gadget that you may choose to use, whether it's electronic or metaphysical, is understand the ways that you can inadvertently make this stuff do things, and double check yourself. And if you do realize that you made it do something, laugh. Right? It's not that big a deal, because I think the hardest thing to being successful with this stuff is knowing that you can make stuff happen, and having the discipline to not make things happen, but to let them happen. That's tricky.
With me, I don't believe in all that scientific mumbo jumbo type of machinery.
Well, science believes in you.
I know. I just don't believe in that. The recording's okay. That's fine. But as far as, the EMF reader and stuff like that, I believe in my intuition. I believe in me. That's who I believe in. If you don't believe me, then that's fine. You don't have good taste anyway. So, shit, I don't care. But I believe in what I believe in, and then that's all I need as far as my own proof, because I'm not here to validate you or anybody else. But I'm just one of those type of people that I'm not here to prove it to the world either. I'm here, if I'm here to communicate, I'm here to communicate with the ghost there, if I'm here to do that. But I'm not going to sit here and say, here's a recorder. Say something to me. And let's have it recorded. I ain't going to do that damn shit. Really? Shit. Or here's a drink. Let's drink it. I ain't going to do that shit.
Well, a lot of my early interest in this kind of stuff came through the history of spiritualism. And spiritualism always recognized mediums who had this deep connection with their intuition, the way that you describe. My connection with my own intuition is evolving. But the thing that fascinates me about these technologies, which started in what we think of as very primitive, like pendulums and that sort of thing, and evolving into these, I guess you could call gadgets, is for the people that do not have strong command of their own intuitive faculties or are still growing into those, it does provide some ways for everybody to connect with this in some way. And one of the things that was still, I mean, I still do this when I conduct seances, is to tell spirits ways that they can help communicate. Using the candle flame is one of my favorite ones to do when I have the right kind of controlled environment for that. Right. And so being able to say, hey, we have these little cat balls here, and if you want to move one of those or make them flash, that'll let us know that you're here. We have this bell that you can ring. We have a lot of different things like that. And I'd like to have a little bit of a playground if I'm working with a controlled environment where we're really going to try and get into a place. But when you're just walking into a place, you don't need any of that stuff.
Right. So I'm curious, since you mentioned spiritualism, what do you think about table tapping? When they move the table up and down.
Well, it's an interesting phenomenon. And it happens with people at in different ways. Just like the pendulum, it is possible to make the table move. You push on it, right? So it is possible to fake that kind of stuff. But I also think that people connecting together, that there is some phenomenon that's not just easily explained. The debunkers will say, oh, well, everyone's just subconsciously doing this. Okay, maybe, but what is your subconscious connected with? Right? So it's one of those kind of gray areas where when you watch someone else do it, you're just like, oh my gosh. Right? But when you do it yourself, it becomes something else. That's the same with glass moving, Ouija boards, pendulum work, dowsing rods, all of these kinds of things where we seem to be involved in the messaging that happens. Because otherwise you just set the table across the room and sit and watch it. And it would do that without anything. So clearly we are involved in this stuff. But I think that maybe some of that happens. I mean, some of it is clearly just people messing around and playing games, and that's fine. But my theory on some of this kind of stuff is that the spirits need some kind of energy to work with. And when we put ourselves in a position to have our subconscious tapped, then we become the energy that the spirits use. Or we have something with batteries, right? that has energy that we give the spirit the opportunity to work with. We have to bring something in, and even in those situations where there's something more external going on, I think that we still give our energy by opening ourselves up and say, we want to have this experience, we want to see this stuff. We are opening our energy to be utilized in some way. And it's why the person that sits around and goes, okay, thrill me, nothing happens. Because they're not open to that exchange. So I mean, that's really where I've come down on this. And you know, there's a real fine line between trickery and that connectedness, and I'm still trying to understand it. All right, I've gotten from the point of going, it's all bullshit, to right, and being that guy, to being someone who goes, okay, there's some stuff that I'm apparently connecting with, and there's other stuff I don't understand, and I'm trying to find ways to connect what I can understand into it and just broaden the connection, broaden the experience. And I think that if you're working with people and that is their attitude, and it has to be someone who is also willing on both sides, as a leader and a follower, to have absolutely nothing happen. We're gonna conduct our seance, and we're not gonna get a goddamn thing. We're gonna sit here for an hour and then have to go pee. And that will be our evening.
They want to spook the shit out of you when you're on the toilet.
But no, I mean, you have to be willing for nothing to happen, because these things are not performing monkeys. Okay. Now, having said that,
reach out of the toilet and going to grab you,
give you a little tickle. Yeah, no, that's a horror movie I don't want to see. I'm not ready for that.
That would be so much fun.
No, I want the bathroom to remain sacred space.
I love that.
But I think that's very important. Now I think that if you are willing for nothing to happen, that you put yourself in a much better space that things do happen. But you understand that this is an exchange.
Well, I think here's the way that it's always been with me. People love being around me because they say things happen when I'm around. And it took me a while to really understand what that means. And I think it's because when somebody really doesn't want things to happen when I'm around, it's like they're telling the universe, I don't want anything to happen around. When I don't want anything to happen, but when I'm around, it's like, please have something to happen to people that don't want anything to happen to people. It's like scare the shit out of them when I'm around. I'm one of these trickster type of, spirits. Go screw with somebody that is like that. Just to mess with them. Who's like, well, prove it to me. And I don't even have to do anything, and something happens every time. And it's funny to me. It's absolutely hilarious, because I will sit there and I will die laughing. I will be laughing about it, and I had nothing to do with it.
Sure.
Each and every time, but it's like they're challenging the universe to do something to them, and and it's funny to me. It's like You don't want to sit here and tell Mother Nature not to do something when Mother Nature's going to do something to you.
Right.
You know? You just don't want to make that challenge.
But getting back to your question about, knowing if who you're working with is legitimate, I think that is less important than you knowing what you are bringing to the game. If you are purely in a follow mode, then you are completely dependent on that individual or that group for what you're going to get out of this. And
well, the thing about it is when you are buying a tour, okay, you are basically, you're depending on that guide to turn around and tell you the information on that tour. Like, for example, you're going on a ghost tour and you're doing this walk on the ghost tour. You're depending on that guide to give you the information on that ghost tour.
Right.
To give you all the ghostly goodies and blah, blah, blah. This person went and they had a love of their life that was tragically taken away from them. And so they threw themselves off of the building and went,
right.
And
every place used to be a brothel.
Yeah. All that.
Even if it's a bank.
Right. And all that other stuff. And you want them to kind of juice things up. I remember going through the Winchester house and see, the first time that I went through the Winchester house, I had a friend of mine that went with me. And we got into Mrs. Winchester's room. And of course, they go in there and they give the theories about why she built the house, which is a house that has absolutely no, no blueprints that actually made any sense, because she constantly took rooms, she changed them all the time, and it was basically said that the spirits had built the house. Is what it was. And the legend said that she did this because of a medium had told her that if she kept building the house, that the spirits would never be able to get to her. And the spirits was going to kill her. And these were spirits that were killed by the Winchester guns. These were the bullets. The Winchester guns. Let me start over. The Winchester guns was the company that her husband had owned, and the bullets were the ones that were killing her family off. And basically, they were the ones that were coming after her family. And so if she kept building, then the spirits would never be able to get to her. And so that's what she did. She moved to California and she kept building and she kept building and she kept building. And so when we went into the bedroom, of course, they would give all these, theories. And the first thing I heard, and I remember I laughed. I absolutely laughed. And I was with my friend who was another witch. She couldn't hear spirits. She couldn't see spirits, nothing. She wasn't anything of a medium or spiritualist or anything like that. And the first thing I heard was Mrs. Winchester's thing. She says, "It was my money and it's none of your business why I spent my money or how I designed my house." And I mean, she was prim and proper when she said it. And I had to cover my mouth because I was laughing my butt off when she said it. And Michelle came up beside me and she's like, "You heard somebody say something. What did you hear?" And I'm like, I'm not going to say. She's like, you heard somebody say something, and I know you did. And I turned and I looked in the direction, and the rocker was rocking.
Nice.
When I heard it. And I turned around and I looked at her and I whispered what she said. And I said it was Mrs. Winchester. I said, right over there. And she saw the rocker just rocking, and it suddenly stopped.
Right.
Yep. And with that, we are going to table this conversation, and we will be right back with the Witch's Cabinet. Have you heard? People are raving about Moonlight Potions and Charms with 5-star reviews. 5 stars for excellent products, amazing services, and fast shipping. We are an Etsy star seller. Listen to some of our reviews. Author and owner of Wicca Witch Studios, Dorothy Morrison said, I'm in love. The Marie Laveau Altar on the Go is absolutely amazing and jam-packed with everything one could possibly need, no matter what sort of magic they're planning. Kudos on a great product. Jess said, absolutely love the Papa Legba prayer candle. I've been hunting for a good Papa Legba candle forever with 0 success, and I adore this one. High Priestess said, adorable wooden coffins. Can't wait to use them. And Angelica said about our ancestor oil, exceeding my expectations. Packaged with love and smells amazing. Definitely recommending and buying again. Make sure to check out our Bubbling Cauldron Bath Bombs, available in Luck of the Irish, Lavender, and Dragon's Blood. Our magical milk baths are also available in Papa Legba Purification, White Flowers, Lucky Love, and Van Van. All are homemade and spelled with love, care, and intention. Our Happily Ever After candle line is designed with you in mind. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Are you at a crossroads? Not sure which direction to go? Or do you feel powerless? Or is there another question that needs answering? At Moonlight Potions and Charms, our many services assist our clients to emerge their authentic selves and embrace the power and magic that lies within them. Many of our readings provide the clarity one needs to pursue their life's destiny. Our soulful readings assist one to discover what is required to be in alignment with one's soul journey. Our tarot readings provide clarity and coaching for those who are at a crossroads in life. Our animal medicine readings show what our animal brothers and sisters can teach you about yourself and your life. Unsure where to start your shadow work? Book a shadow reading. There is so much more in our Wicked store, so visit us at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and embrace the power of your own magic.
We are back with Witch Hat Chats. I'm Saul Ravencraft. I am talking to Miss Nikki Kirby. We've been talking about spooky season and going into things prepared, although it doesn't have to be just spooky season. The ghosts are here all the time. And Nikki, you had talked a little bit about some of the tools that you take in. Specifically, you talked about salt and that you use different kinds of salts.
Oh, yes. You know, for a witch's cabinet, we were talking about salt. And I thought that we can be able to talk about different types of salt. So I was troubled when I was hearing from different witches that they didn't understand that we do have different types of salt. And I'm like, you don't understand that we have different types of salt? That should be something that was basic and most witches should know. Well, number one, witches should understand that salt is considered one of the basic things that every witch should have. It's a protection type of thing. So salt is one of the things that people should have. Like, for example, you should be able to have a little layer of salt right in front of your doorstep, a little layer right in front of your doorstep, probably underneath your mat would be a good thing to protect, keep people who you don't want to come into your home, or entities who you don't want to come into your home. Be good to have one in front of your window as well. Just regular old salt. But there are different types of salt as well. So, for example, there is sea salt. As the name mentions, sea salt does come from the sea. And so, therefore, it carries the power of sea, and it works well with the water elements. So, if there's anything that you need to work with the element of water, you can use sea salt because it is very purifying. It is very protective. And it also is a great offering to any type of sea spirits and deity. As well as there is what is called seaweed salt. And seaweed salt is excellent. I've used that, especially when I'm making my baths as well. You can use it as an offering, especially to any type of deities that are sea deities. So, for example, I use it as an offering to Yima. I also use it as any type of things when I'm doing my baths. So it's something that it smells pretty good. And it gives you that absolutely water type of feeling. And plus, I happen to be a water sign, so it makes me feel that I'm really into the water element. Same way what sea salt does as well. So it's one of those things, and which is very purifying. So you can use that, which is really good. So that's sea salt, or seaweed salt is really good. When with seaweed salt, though, seaweed salt is kind of harder to find, but when you find it, it has a little bit of green in it, and it's a little weird looking. I actually didn't know that we had seaweed salt until I saw it, and it was like, oh, something new. Let's find it and let's see what we can do with it. So I've been using it ever since. And then there is what is Himalayan pink salt. Now, Himalayan pink salt can come in a powder form, or it can come in a chunky form. And it's also called one of the purest salts on earth. So it's been clarified to be something that you can actually have to open up your third eye. And it's used for self-love. It's also used for romance. It can also be added for your rose quartz to enhance it. As well, it's a great warding ingredient. So that's something that's really good to be able to use. And then we've got kosher salt. Now, the difference between regular salt and kosher salt is that kosher salt has actually been blessed by a Jewish rabbi. That's the real difference between it. And it complies with Jewish religious law. So if you need something that has to be blessed by a Jewish rabbi, you go get kosher salt. Okay? And it actually helps you when it comes to anything that you need, especially if you have a client and the client is Jewish and you need to do something to like an offering for that client, or you have to do something involving the client that has to do with something to be Jewish, and it has to be kosher salt. So make sure you have some kosher salt because it actually draws out negativity and it's really, really good for that. So that's kosher salt. Table salt, which is really, really good, can be used because it has great purifying properties as well as protection properties, and it's perfectly acceptable, especially if you have nothing else. So that's one of the good things that you can be able to have for that. And this is the one thing that I always have found really, really hard. When people say black salt, you need to ask them, is it witches salt or is it Hawaiian black salt? Okay, because there is a difference. Okay. With me, I'll call it, people say witch's black salt or Hawaiian black salt. Me, I just call it witch's salt, and then I'll call it black salt. When it comes to witch's black salt, that is a very powerful substance that is made, and it's not edible because it is a combination of salt and ashes. And the ashes come from your fire pit, your herb bundles. Like, for example, if you've done a lot of burning on your, what do they call it? Your incense burner, in your cauldron, your cast iron scrapings from your cauldron, and they mix it with salt and stuff like that. The black salt is used, this black salt is used in protection as well as in banishing, bindings, and reversal spells, and is also used in exorcisms. So this is what the witch's black salt is used for. Now the Hawaiian black salt, now that actually comes from Hawaii, and it is a natural and has activated charcoal that gives it the black color. So this is a black salt that in your practice invokes the power and beauty of the Hawaiian Islands and its volcanoes. So it has extra strength. So this is something that is like if you want to invoke Pelete, that's a great salt for her. Now that can be eaten or edible. The other one you cannot eat. So when you're actually looking for black salt, make sure you're actually having the correct one and know which one that you're actually wanting, because you want to make sure that you're not getting the wrong type. Okay. And then there is what is called red salt. And red salt is also from Hawaii. And it's actually a red color because it's actually volcanic clay that is rich in iron oxide. And it's used to clean tools and canoes and homes. But it's also used for like seasoning, what they can do. And so with this salt, I kind of use that for things like with Papa Legba, because he has the color red. I use that for him. I use that for Hecate as well, because she happens to be a triple goddess. So I use that for her. I use that for Pelete if I'm going to be doing offerings with her. Anything of fire, I use that with them as offerings. And then there's gray salt. Gray salt is kind of like Celtic sea salt is what gray salt is. Now that is pretty expensive. That's one of the most expensive sea salts that you can actually kind of get. That one is a higher concentrate of iron, is what it is. And it's actually better tasting sea salt. But with gray salt, you can be able to use that in magic that involves the gray areas of things. Is what I pretty much use it when it comes to gray salt. You know, each salt, when it comes to their colors, I kind of use that for that. Now, you have also what is called goddess salt. And with goddess salt, I mix the colors together. And then I chant the goddess chant over them. So that makes a stronger type of salt. And that's what I pretty much use when it comes to my exorcisms, my banishing, my protection, all of that. I use that type of salt to be able to do that because it is so strong to make things a lot stronger. So there is my little quick type of thing about salt.
Very nice. Very useful.
Yep. All right.
I hope everyone enjoys spooky season and that you do use this as an opportunity to broaden your horizons, but beyond October, right? This is your gateway maybe, but hopefully this kind of connection becomes something that you are able to do regularly and safely as part of your path.
All right. So that is all for our show today. Tune in next week when Saul and I will be chatting with Barbara Moore. So ladies, these are our rights that no one gives or takes away from us because we are not property. So make sure to let the men know and understand this and vote these slave owners out of office. All right. So wear your mask and get your vaccinations and your boosters and support the people that are helping you and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, and yourself safe and have an absolute magical week.
I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk. Nikki Kirby with that black stone. I agree, Evermoving We Rise. Life and soul with a beautiful mind. I give you blessings under moonlight. I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk.